Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. You guys know that I'm a fan of the Resident Evil series. I've made a handful of videos on Resident Evil already, my most recent one being about the cut content from Resident Evil 3 and just how much was gutted between the original and the remake. I highly recommend you go check that out if you're curious. But today we're going to be talking about the upcoming Resident Evil movie. This is written and directed by Zach Cregger, who's made horror movies such as Weapons as well as Barbarian. I really liked Weapons. I thought that it had a very interesting atmosphere, especially with how the characters were handled. I felt like it aligned with how a lot of the creepypastas that I read felt, where it's this small town vibe and you get to know the people along the way, and it reminded me of something like Spire in the Woods to an extent because of just how much you get to know these characters and the small town. So there's no denying that he's a very talented filmmaker, but I have some concerns about this movie, especially from the trailer that we've gotten so far. So without further ado, let's go over the trailer and then I'll give you my thoughts. So this trailer is set in the dead of winter, and it opens with our main character, played by an alum of Weapons, entering a house looking for help. He's apparently been stranded, and he then tries to phone his girlfriend. We hear him narrate about how things are going wrong, and throughout the trailer he narrates about how he might not ever see his girlfriend again, that kind of thing. Next, we see him running to a farm, we see him collecting weapons and ammunition, things like that. Then we cut to him inside of a city trying to reach for keys off of a dead body, which then gets dragged away. And then this is when it gets a little more hectic. We see him hide in the sewer. We see him find this ginormous, weird-looking blob zombie guy, I guess. We get a couple of hectic shots of zombies trying to bang down a door, him walking around, the narration continues. It's a very well edited and well put together trailer, I have to give them that. And then the sequence where he's running through the city and then notices the zombies are on the roofs and they start sort of throwing themselves at him as he runs on the ground is admittedly a cool idea. And so that's the trailer. It's very much a teaser trailer. We don't get a lot in terms of what the story is other than this guy is possibly trying to get back to his girlfriend and that he is taken from the countryside and eventually has to go into the city for whatever reason. So what do I like from the trailer? Well, I really like how the trailer is put together. For one, I have a real appreciation for when a trailer is done well. I think it's a very rare thing. It's something that is an art form along with making a movie on its own. Making a good trailer without giving away too much information and also without misleading your audience is a very difficult thing to do. There's that joke about A24 movies and how the trailers are crazy intense and then you get to the movie and it's like a really boring, long, drawn-out thing where nothing ever happens. That personally happened to me with the movie Lamb from A24. I convinced my friends to go see it because I thought it was going to be interesting and it was a limited release, so we had to drive into the city a little bit to go to this artsy-fartsy theater where they were showing it. And it was a 3-hour drama about Icelandic farmers and nothing happened and it made no sense and the trailer was so misleading. So I obviously really appreciate when a trailer does not do that, and I'm hoping that this is the case with this, because the trailer is well done and the director has described it as Fury Road but with zombies. And to me what that means is that this is going to be bang, 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 like very fast-paced, very intense, wall-to-wall horror and action the entire time, which I think is an interesting take on zombies. It seems like these zombies are the kinds of zombies that you would get in something like World War Z, how they are just a hive mind throwing themselves at people, not caring what happens to them at all. Now here's the thing, that's all well and good, but does anything I just described really sound like a Resident Evil game or property? Beyond having to go find your girlfriend, like in Resident Evil 7, there's not really much else that this trailer gives us that makes me think of Resident Evil. And that's the major complaint that I and many others have about this movie so far. Now I know it's very early and this is just speculation and I hope I'm proven wrong and I hope this movie's very good. But at the current moment, it doesn't seem like there's anything in this that justifies it being a Resident Evil movie when it could have been its own very original take on the zombie genre. Now, of course, I'm not asking that every second of the trailer has some obvious reference to Resident Evil. I don't want, it to cut to Leon backflipping 50 times on a jet ski and then he jumps off onto a motorcycle. Like, I don't need that. There are great ways to do movies and shows within an existing universe of games that just adds on to it rather than being a direct adaptation. The Fallout TV show is a great example of that. The director himself said that this game takes place almost alongside Resident Evil 2, kind of in the peripheral. That this city is going through its crazy night where Resident Evil 2 and 3 are happening at about the same time, and that this is just another iteration of what's going on in Raccoon City on that fateful evening. If you're a fan of Resident Evil at all, you know when Resident Evil 2 and 3 take place. They take place on September 30th, 1998. The day I'll never forget. And this trailer, if you just take one look at it, very clearly takes place in the dead of winter. Like, there is fresh snow on the ground. It is by no means September. And you could make the argument, oh, well, maybe it snowed in September in one part of on one side of the city, but not in the other. But I think the temperature, at the very least, would be really low. Jill is wearing a tank top, for God's sake, and she's not freezing to death. I don't think it's that cold out. It just seems like a very odd choice to try to get in with the fans by saying, hey, we want this to be a story in the universe that takes place in tandem with the games, and then it visually doesn't even adhere to it, which is why I'm concerned. It doesn't seem like it's going to try to do the same things that Fallout did, where it just wanted to add on to the universe, because it doesn't even adhere to the main story as is. Which just, once again, leads me to believe that this is just a zombie movie with the Resident Evil branding slapped on top of it. It really reminds me of the Until Dawn movie that came out a while back. The Until Dawn movie is the perfect example of just taking a generic horror movie and slapping a licensed name on top of it in order to try to make some quick money. The plot did not follow the games at all, and it was hardly in the same universe. The only connective tissue between the game and the movie was, I kid you not, they show Josh's file, but in it is a screenshot from the PlayStation game. They couldn't even get a picture of Rami Malek. They had to steal it from the game. Unbelievable. And the reason for that is really interesting. It's because the movie was not developed to be an Until Dawn movie. It was its own separate horror script that had been in development for a long time, kind of bounced around to different writers and producers, and eventually they decided, hey, let's get it produced and let's just slap this IP's name on it so we can at least make a little bit of money related to it. They did some quick rewrites to put in some references and then pushed it out the door. Which is why I'm all the more confused about this approach with Resident Evil. Because this movie was developed from the beginning, as far as we know, as a Resident Evil project. I mean, it comes from a reputable director who has a solid track record with creating these very engaging horror movies. So it's just very strange to me that this adaptation isn't really an adaptation at all. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Are you excited for the Resident Evil movie? Are you nervous like I am? Are you glad that it's not a direct game adaptation, or are you disappointed? Please let me know in the comments below. I appreciate you guys watching, and I hope you have a good morning or evening or, whatever.